Hello, this is Tony Gordon from T. Gordon Salon Talks. I'm so excited to have today Benny Pollard. For those of you who don't know Benny, how you doing? Say hello.
Hello, everyone.
If you don't know him, he has been nominated for the North American Hairstylist of the Year Award 6 times and has won twice.
Yes, thank God.
Yeah. Once for Avant-Garde and then once for Contemporary Classic. You've had various companies, including salons, product manufacturing. Now you have this really cool thing called Cool Beauty Consulting. You originally hail from Louisville, Kentucky.
Very good.
Did I say it right?
You got it. Good job. Good job.
Not many people do, right? What do they say? They say
I try not to
Louisville.
correct it too often. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Louisville. That's
Louisville.
Yeah, we can't do that.
Well, I have some relatives not far from there, so maybe I have
okay.
just a little bit. So you're married to Maria.
Maria, yeah.
Maria, we need to meet up and we'll get together with the wives. And you're a big Harley rider.
Yes,
right?
yeah, I've been riding motorcycles off and on for about 20 years. Love it. You know, it's adrenaline. It's that.
Get out on the open road.
Oh, it's beautiful. Love it.
Yeah,
Love
yeah.
it. Recommend it for anybody.
I'm on 2 wheels too, but the motors are my legs. But
there you go.
Hey, so I read that you are an avid business book reader.
Yeah, you know, when I first became a professional stylist, the clientele that I really wanted to attract were mostly business people. Mm-hmm. So I recognized early in my career that there was something that they were doing and how they were talking and speaking, and I'm like, okay, I really want to get deeper with how these people are thinking. And quite frankly, my clientele, because of that level of clientele, became my surrogate instructors, if you will. So I would read everything that they would suggest, and I have for my whole career. And yeah, very much, I really like listening.
You like listening?
I like listening.
Oh, you like podcasts, or you like listening to books?
Yeah. Books primarily. And I listen. There's a couple of reasons I like to listen. First, I can have it going, and I don't want to use the word multitask loosely, but it's similar to a multitask. And it's helped me in many ways. It's helped me become a better presenter, a better speaker, and obviously grow my business intellect.
So you do this on the drive?
I do it in the drive. I do it during the shave. The whole deal.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes on the motorcycle. With the little headsets. Yeah. But usually I like stuff like, Steppenwolf and rock and roll there.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. What are you reading? What are you listening to or reading now?
Well, I've got 2 that I would highly recommend. One is called Setting the Table by a gentleman named Danny Meyer. He's a restaurateur out of New York. Beautiful, beautiful writing about hospitality, which I really love. The second one is called Rocket Fuel. And I would have to pull the author. I just recently started this one. And the reason I think that is so important, especially for some of us that want to be in business and be employers, is because it allows you the opportunity to define roles in your business. So the person usually who starts the business, salons, since we're speaking about today, is usually the one that's thinking out in the future and really wanting to envision stuff. Most things that are created in business is usually from the person who sees the visions. However, sometimes that person isn't the best. The word they
executor.
Like to use is integrator, and it's to execute the plans. I am not an executor as much as I can see the vision, and I need the right support. I need people smarter than me around me to do that. So Rocket Fuel is what I'm into now.
Yeah, it's that's definitely interesting, and that brings up like your salons, right? You recently changed the name to Nova, right?
I did. I did, and after nearly 25 years as Hair by Benny and Friends, we decided to do a complete rebrand. I was no longer accepting customers in the salon, and I had a great management team. I had my integrators, if you will.
Yeah.
So I decided to rebrand.
What do you mean you're not accepting customers?
No, I don't do appointments at all anymore.
Oh.
I do only demonstrations, photo shoots, and things like
that.
Oh,
you don't?
So,
you don't?
No, me
yes.
personally.
Okay.
Yeah. I had an entire team. Some have been with me almost 2 decades that work in the salon. And I recently slightly changed ownership and brought one of my key people in to be the integrator and also an equity partner in the company. And it's been growing beautifully ever since.
Yeah, how does that work? I think a lot of people would think about bringing in partners. I always found that it was incredibly complex. Once I got into a discussion with the lawyers about it, I mean, it became like really difficult to do. How do you pull that off?
Well, most of the time attorneys are really looking out for their client, which is usually in a protective mode, which I completely appreciate. That's why we pay them. Mm-hmm. When it comes to the equity side of it, you have to think about exit strategy, mm-hmm. as well as entrance strategy. Mm-hmm. And most folks think purely about entrance and how we're going to do the deal, and they don't think about the future and how we're going to undo the deal later.
Right.
And there's a myriad of ways that can happen. It can
mm-hmm.
be in a form of selling
mm-hmm.
completely to the other partner. It could be a whole sell of the whole thing, outplay, or you buy one another out. However you just choose to do that. Mm-hmm. It's pretty straightforward. You issue some stock, sign on the dotted line, mm-hmm. And then you have an operating agreement that says, okay, here's what we do.
Yeah.
This is how we operate together, and that's it. And generally speaking, some of that stuff has more to do with not being able to run out and get a big loan on the business without
Sure.
the other one knowing, and there's stuff like that.
Yeah, so it can hamper your freedom a little bit. If
yes,
you want to do something.
well, as long as you're clear up front and everybody knows the expectations. The biggest trouble of all business, with or without any kind of partnership, is expectations and lack thereof.
Yeah.
When there aren't any really clear expectations, everything runs amok.
Right, right.
People of good character want guidance, but generally speaking, anyone could execute some sort of equity agreement with their company. My most important thought about the whole thing was building a company that will live past me and have legacy, and to make sure that all the fruits of my labors of all my team over all these years can continue to prosper mm-hmm. with correct leadership that's been with, and Lindsay is her name. Lindsay's been with me 12
So
years
Lindsay
now.
was the one you made a partner.
Lindsay's the one I made a partner in Nova.
Now what if she goes nuts? What if she just says, I want a water wall over here, it's going to be $10,000, and she just buys it, and you walk in one day, and there it is.
Well, you know what, that's a good thought to have, but that would probably be me doing that stuff. So she'd be reining me in.
So she'd be firing you. Okay.
She'd be reining me in, yeah. So, I'm a firm believer that if you got a really good person, and they do perform at a high level, mm-hmm. A statement that I like a lot is, get the smartest people you can around you, because if you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room. And so I'm a really big fan of that, and she can do so much more than I can do.
Right.
So I got us going. Now we need a quality person to execute the plan and the longevity. So
right.
So those are when my name is no longer tied to the company as a whole. Quite frankly, if I had to do it over again, I never would have put my name on it to begin with.
Yeah.
And I think it because everybody was so in tune to me, and I would turn in the PR machine, especially with the photo shoots and the nahas and all that stuff. And then it started to act like it couldn't live without me. Right.
So you bring up the point about the photo shoots. How is it that you've been nominated 6 times? I mean, this is really fantastic. You must have a process or something going on in your shoot process. Something is that you're doing really works. So for all the people who are out there, and there's so many people who want to pursue NAHA and North American Hairstylist of the Year awards, how can you help them? The people who are listening to this who are hairdressers out there thinking about how to do what you've done.
Well, Tony, there's a blanket statement I'll say first. You simply have to start doing it. Mm-hmm. And what I've run into is so many salons don't know where to begin. Mm-hmm. And so I'm glad you're asking this question. And they're a little intimidated by the process and what it really means. Luckily, in the world of social media nowadays, I think we can take the edge off that a little bit. Mm-hmm. But personal self-doubt is something that people will carry around with them too. Like, That's true. My God, I can never win. I'm not good enough. They'll carry all that noise, and I did too. Luckily, I was able to early in my career. I worked with a salon that was tied to a local modeling agency. Oh. And I was able to be exposed to some of that fashion shooting, so to speak. And that intrigued me enough to, okay, let's just go do this. So we started shooting, and I started shooting with a gentleman named Ed Brown.
Yes.
And we've shot together. He's won all the NAHAs with me, all the nominations with me. So it's basically the same 3 people almost my entire career mm-hmm. that I've shot with. The same makeup artist and the same photographer. Now, let's break this down for a second.
Yeah.
The photographer must understand how to shoot people and light them correctly. right? And not weddings or social or stuff like that. I mean, they can do that, that's fine, but they have to know how to shoot magazine ready stuff, and it's all about the lighting. Number two, the makeup artist must be able to understand lighting and film also. Before digital, the interview would go like this. The makeup artist would ask the stylist, the hairdresser, all right, what type, and the photographer, what type of film are you shooting? What type of lighting would you like? Well, not lighting, but yeah, well, it'd be lighting. Is it you're going to shoot black and white? You're going to shoot Kodachrome or whatever it might be. Those are the film conversations. But what that tells me is that she knows how to do her makeup correctly to accommodate the finished product. Most salons want to use one of their stylists who can do some makeup in the salon.
True.
And which is fine for real life stuff. But
I'm guilty.
we've done it. But that's how I learned my lessons. It was like, okay. So we have this particular formula that we work with. Now, as far as planning, you simply see it in the head, in your head, and you think, okay, I want to go this direction with this particular feel. And then you just get in there and execute and be willing to let it change in front of your eyes.
Oh.
Now, that's a very important statement. Not all of your ideas in your head will come out while you're in the middle of the shoot. So there'll be moments where you'll change your dynamic on the spot. The last, but I don't say last but not least, but the next thing would be able to budget a little bit for it.
Budget
a little bit.
Yeah.
I would, in the early days, I would budget as much as $7,000 or $8,000, and you can spend as much as you want. Some people spend 25 or 30, but that was a lot of money. 1996. That was my first nomination, and so
1996 was your first nomination.
Was the first time I shot for NAHA. My first nomination. Now I'd been shooting many years prior to that, and we were getting published regularly, and it was really nice. But the 96 was the first full nomination, and we got in, and we didn't have. So this is interesting. We got in, and we didn't win. So I'm like, okay, well, let's do it again. So we shot again in '97. We were in 2 categories. So that was to be like my third, take me to 3 nominations. Didn't win either one of those. Now at this point, I'm starting to feel this cynicism overtake me. Like it's rigged. There's favorites. It's something's going on. It's not it's not legit, and there's politics and all this, and all that self-doubt starts welling up, and I'm like, but I kept shooting anyway. So after I kept shooting, then we got one, and I'm like, okay, maybe it wasn't. But the moral of that part of the story is no matter what, if you want something, you got to keep doing it, man.
Keep doing it.
I made a joke in 2000. I was up again in 2000, didn't win.
Yeah.
And I made a joke that I was the Susan Lucci of hairdressers. And hopefully some of your listeners and viewers.
Susan Lucci never won an Emmy, right?
I think she wound up getting one after like 25 nominations or something. But after the first one was a certain relief. Okay, I knew I could do it. And then the next one, a few years later, I was like, okay, it wasn't a fluke. I really did do it.
Yeah.
Now here's something that's interesting that was in both of those winning shoots. I also designed and fabricated all the wardrobe.
You did?
So I'm sitting in my living room, and I have all these dress dummies around, and we're making all this wardrobe, and I'm using stuff like soldering wire and upholstery piping, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Wow, you are multi-talented, my man.
Well, I surprised myself when I did that. We got finished with it, and I was like, okay, that looks really cool. Now let's see what it looks like on film, right? And then, of course, in the second one, we did the same thing. And the reason I point that out is because the full completion of the shot is very, very important. The photograph has to make the viewer feel something. It can't just be a pretty hair. It's got to make me feel it. I got to feel it, and that, I think, makes a great photograph. Whether it wins a NAHA or not, you still have to get your art out.
Right.
Always get your art out. If you really want to be good, photograph the work.
Photograph the work.
Photograph the work.
Yeah.
It takes you to another place.
Right. And there are a lot more people doing it these days, mainly because of Instagram.
That really helps, yeah. And that trains the eye really fast. The fastest way I've watched a young stylist get to be a master stylist from the artistic and the technical side is doing photography.
Doing photography.
Yeah. Or styling hair for photography. It's amazing what it does for them.
Yeah, it is amazing. I mean, we have some people on staff that have just skyrocketed because of Instagram and doing photo shoots and that kind of thing, and it's just wow, it just blows me away how fast they're moving. So what are you doing now? What's your big focus right now?
Well, in 2013 we started a full distribution company called Cool Beauty Consulting.
Cool Beauty Consulting.
It's a little different animal. I mean, we represent national brands, and we do it through a conceptive approach. So we really work with the salons.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is because I've been a salon owner for so long, there's a lot of stuff that I've built up in my catalog over the years that we can really help other salons. And I find that I love doing haircutting education and technical stuff, but I find that the most important thing I can do now after a few decades in the business is to help other salons become profitable, help them develop training programs, help them understand what culture looks like. I hear people constantly, oh, you got to develop a culture. Well, how?
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Right.
It's like this ambiguous organic word that floats around. Culture purely is a behavior mechanism. It's behaviors.
Yeah.
And so we work a great deal with that. We do a program in our salon called the Living Lab.
Yeah.
The Living Lab allows my Cool Beauty salon customers to come in and actually study our model in real time while we're open for business with real customers. I don't know, I can't find anybody else that does it, and I'm very proud of it because it has really influenced a great deal of salons in our particular marketplace.
So
how to build that culture.
So they come in and they literally work, or they just observe?
Well, it's a formal program. So there's some session. There's about 90 minutes worth of session, and then we're in the salon for a good 2 hours for observation points. So we make some of the context, if you will, in the morning. They witness, and then we go back for another session in a form of marketing, which was in the 80s termed guerrilla marketing, which is really not. I call it influence marketing. It has nothing to do with digital or social media. It's purely how to influence the public.
Right.
Through public speaking, actually, quite frankly. So we teach them how to do that as well. But they get the opportunity to come in and actually see the salon in real time while it's working with real customers. They can see the real retail sale transactions taking place.
Yeah.
They can see the upsell. And here's why that is so good, is because people have a tendency to say, well, I got to see it to believe it.
Right.
But really, it's just the opposite.
It's so true. I just read a book that was talking about exactly this, that seminar style is where you have the greatest amount of influence.
That's exactly right.
There's different levels of influence, like there's digital, not that many people respond to it. Then there's mail, there's being in person, but that in person is the most influential of all.
That is. I discovered this quite by accident. Not really by accident. I became a platform artist for a manufacturer, and I really enjoyed speaking and presenting and teaching. And I think I just love working with people. And I moved states, and I had to rebuild my clientele. So I simply did an open workshop for the public, and my book exploded.
Really?
And then I went from no clients to being pretty full over with one seminar. And it was really, it was a great moment. I went to the local tennis club.
This is for customers.
This is for the public.
Right.
So I'm
potential customers.
Yes, that's correct. So I went from no customers to being, almost full in over one night. And here's what's interesting. There was like 80 ladies that showed up to this, potential customers, this program, which was exorbitant. Usually it's a little smaller than that. However, ironically, it was my first one. It was really big. And after that, I think I got more clients from the people who attended telling their friends about it than from the actual attendance itself. So the buzz took off.
So this was a platform, like you were up on the stage showing people how to do their own hair or something?
How to comb tangles out, how to apply conditioner correctly. I mean, we've orchestrated down to a point where we'll even act out doing the hair. And so they can have that true vision of how to use conditioner correctly.
It is mind-blowing, isn't it?
It's mind-blowing, right. And most stylists are, okay, so this is the shampoo and this is the conditioner that I want you to have today. Take this with you. So we take that one step further and we actually show them how to break it down and show them how to really get it through the hair and act it out for them. And it's absolutely tremendous. It
amazes me when I ask a client, how do you apply that leave-in conditioner or that gel, and they say, well, I put it on my hand and
that's, I think that's why this particular platform for public influence and to build your business has been so fruitful. I mean, we've been doing it since 1990.
Yes, well, that's a really good one. Thank you so much, Benny. I might use that one myself. And for those of you who are listening, yes, doing a seminar for your local potential customers.
Correct.
Very good.
Now,
good
say that,
stuff.
that one word potential is very important because sometimes salons want to invite their already existing clientele.
Right.
That's a different event. That's an open house, of customer appreciation. This is for the one customer who all of her girlfriends are in the Coral Group, or they all work as real estate agents in one particular office or something of that nature. And there's no charge for it.
And you do that in the evening, and you have some hors d'oeuvres. A couple of vittles.
Right. A little bit of wine, but only a little bit. And he said vittles.
All right. Well, that sounds really good. So, so tell us more about Cool Beauty. So how does that connect? Because I saw you on stage with people like Nick Arrojo, and now you're doing something with Euphoria. How does all that play into what Cool Beauty is doing?
Well, Euphoria, Nick Arrojo, reference of Sweden, Code, Icru, New York, Lockme. These are our brand portfolio. So if you are a customer of ours and you partake in one of those particular brands, and then we can help you grow your business. So I get inquisitive or questions regularly about, how much do you charge per hour to this? And we really don't do that. It's, if you're in our family, our portfolio, then we'll sit down with you sometimes monthly if necessary to work with your salon. And some consulting firms want to charge a monthly fee and so forth, and that's fine. We simply support who supports us. And we want to make sure that if they trust us enough to take one of our brands and they trust our brands company, that we can be there to help facilitate their success.
Right.
And that's where the consultant
comes
in.
Does the product go from, like if I was to buy a Rojo, does it come still from a Rojo, or does it come from?
No, we have full warehousing and shipping.
Oh, wow.
And we ship all over about 6 states here in the Midwest that we cover.
It's been a big investment.
Yeah. We're sneaking up on 5 years old. I have a great business partner and a guy named Jeff Petro, who I've known for a great deal, and also Paula Henson, who about 16 years we've worked together. She's an absolute dynamo. And, between the three of us, we go out and visit salons with our sales team and our consultants, such as Mr. Clint. And we get the opportunity to actually sit down one-on-one with the salons. Right,
that's very, very cool. So, does Cool Beauty, does it sell to everyone, like even booth renters, that kind of thing?
We primarily focus on helping bigger businesses, but we certainly service all types.
Everybody.
Right? And I've found that sometimes a one-person salon can be as powerful as a 15-person salon. And so I think everybody has the potential to be great, and we want to facilitate them being able to expose their talents and their growth. Sometimes they don't know that they can even do it. I'm like, yes, you can.
Yeah. And sometimes that's a leaping point for opening a real, what I call a real salon. But on the note of that, what do you think are some of the really big issues that are facing the salon industry right now?
The salon industry as a whole, I think it's actually pretty good. I think it's seen different ebbs and flows over the year. Again, I've been in it. Well, actually, I'm second generation. I actually grew up in it. My parents. My mom was into it as well, so I've seen a lot of things, and I think if I see anything that's the most important, it's some of the things that I experienced early as a salon owner as well, as the ability to lead my team. And I don't care if it's commission, salary, chair, none of that means anything. What really matters is the person at the helm, the person who decided to open the salon to begin with, do they have what it takes, and are they willing to do what it takes to really move that team forward?
It kind of goes back to that thinking about rocket fuel.
Yeah.
Is the person in a leadership role, are they really providing a vision for people to be part of something larger than themselves?
I think that can they and will they? And I think it's going to depend primarily on the legacy, if you will, that the current salon owner wants to fulfill. You see, what happens sometimes when we're stylists, and I'm guilty of this as well, I get so busy doing the hair that all my energy lives there as opposed to developing people. And if we're going to be salon owners in any capacity, one chair or 50, it's important to think through what it looks like when it's finished. So if I open this 3-chair studio, if I open this 42-chair salon, what does it look like when it's finished?
Yeah.
And when it's finished is when it no longer needs you. That's when it's finished.
Right.
And so some people are like, I'm never going to be finished.
I'm never right. I know.
Some people are like, oh,
you know, I think it was. I think my father was mimicking the George Patton. You know, General Patton. I'm gonna die from the last bullet of the last gun of the last war. You know, and it was the last haircut the day before Christmas. I'm gonna be carted out of here in a.
Yeah. Well, it's an arduous undertaking, especially when we really think it out, because a lot of times folks have a tendency to, they see the immediate thing, like let's get the best shampoo chairs, and let's get the best styling chairs, and oh my gosh, we got to have the prettiest retail shelves, and whatever it might be.
How important is that versus just having like a great culture, like you're saying?
That's extremely important, because when I designed Nova to begin with, I designed it on how I would like to operate as a designer, and I didn't think through as much on how I would have my customers experience the space. Fortunately, they loved it, but it didn't even occur to me. I was like, okay, well, I want this kind of light, so I can do this kind of color and this kind of stuff. And most salons will get very, very involved in that aspect of it, and then miss some of the initial setups, the initial marketing, the initial systemization. You see, at the end of the day, here's a great phrase I love, and it came out organically once, was Starbucks was Starbucks before social media. So it's important to have that system set up before we tell the world we're in business. Because if we tell the world before that's set up, then the customer experience will be abysmal. It won't be dialed in. And at the end of the day, when that customer leaves that salon, how they feel about that salon is the salon's brand, regardless of how many Instagram posts they have. So it's got to be dialed in right there. So I got pretty chairs, I got pretty shampoo bowls that move around and all that stuff, and I got great retail shelves, great brands maybe, and then I haven't even scripted my telephone, how to answer my phone. So that's the stuff. It's the cart before the horse thing. So we get all that stuff correct, and that allows the business to start to take off. And those are some things that we really specialize in as Cool Beauty, is how to set that stuff up, how to get that thing dialed in so that your brand becomes an all-encompassing thing.
So Cool Beauty also helps people with startup.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, sure. Like how to design it, how to
if necessary. Absolutely.
Whatever that is included in that discussion. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, there's a few key principles to keep in mind when laying your traffic flow out and so forth. Well, I love all of that. I love the design, and I could be an interior designer too. I love that stuff too.
Yeah, it sounds like you've done a lot of different types of design.
It's just because
everything from fabrics to
Well, the older you get, the more stuff you do, I guess.
Well, once you have a vision, right? You have a vision, and then who can execute that for you? You know, sometimes I think even a visionary sometimes cannot execute. They have to do it themselves sometimes. It really depends on.
And you know what? And a lot of times when that happens, is there's flaws in the execution, and then there's frustration on the visionary's part. I'm guilty of both. And that's when you realize that you have to get the right people around you.
Yeah.
You got to do it. I mean, if you're going to accomplish anything, you have to get the right folks around you.
Right.
And sometimes, and here's the biggest thing, most visionaries, they'll bring people in, then they won't let go.
Then they won't let go.
I'm like, oh my goodness, you got to let go.
Yeah.
That was the most difficult thing for me, was to let go enough to get out of the way and let it fly.
I know. I love hearing about these boards that fire the CEO or the founder.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's happening a lot nowadays.
Right. Sometimes they bring them back, Stephen Jobs, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad too. I mean, I like my iPhone.
I like my iPhone too. So just in general, what do you think about these blow dry bars? Do you have them down in Louisville?
We have a couple.
Yeah.
You know what? It remains to be seen.
Conceptually,
I think the idea has merit. I'm a big fan of how much income can I build my stylist into. How can I really help them get to that next level? Primarily, I want to get them up to 6 figures.
Right.
And we do that primarily through, great hair colors and balayage and all that stuff.
Right.
And really high customer experience. As far as the blow dry bar itself, I think there's something there.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we'll have to watch and see a little bit on how it plays out. But it seems to be doing well in some markets for sure.
Right. Chicago for sure.
You know what's interesting though is we've been doing blow dries all the time anyway.
I know. It's
So I'm just
interesting.
like,
Somebody told me a story about a client where the client was leaving after she got her touch up, got washed out, and then they asked her, "Do you want a blow dry?" She says, "I have an appointment for a blow dry at the blow dry bar."
How interesting is that?
And the stylist said to this client, we do blow dries. And she said, "You do?"
Interesting.
So it's the power of branding.
Yeah.
If you can brand your company to be a very narrow area, then it seems to work in the human mind. It does. Right.
Well, it certainly did. I mean, that's we look at some of the growth in that particular sector, and I'm sure it's stronger in some markets than others.
Right.
But you know what? They're still around. It's been 8 or 10 years since I started seeing that phenomenon happen. Maybe a little longer even.
Right.
So.
Yeah, some of them flip. Can they really make money doing this? I've got a podcast coming up with somebody who's an expert in this, who's been doing it for a while. Cool. But I wanted to ask you about men's salons because I know you owned a men's salon, and you have a men's product line, right?
I do. Gauge for Men. We do the manufacturing of that one, and we're very happy with that. We've had that for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the men's salon, I did venture into that world for a little while, but I like what we're doing on this side more, so I exited that one. But I've been a fan of men's haircutting the whole time, and I'm a big fan of men's haircutting. Prior to the real tight barber stuff, so I'm a scissor over comb guy.
Yeah. And
I really love those really beautiful little tapers and stuff, all scissor over comb.
Right.
But when I watch some of these great barbers get on, man, I'm like, damn, that's bad, man. I like it.
Yeah.
I got the thing. Here's a moral of that little story. Sometimes when you get into something, and you get in the corridor, as I call it, and you find out what it really is, if you don't like it, or if it's not for you, get out. The biggest mistake most people say is they stay in way too long. So when I realized that, you know what, I think it's cool, but it's not really for me. My forte is my strengths are over here.
Right.
So I was like, okay, turn it over.
How do you know when that is? How do you know when to just cut your losses and get out?
Well, I don't know, and it wasn't so much losses, but that's where most people they get into trouble.
Maybe it's emotionally. You're not emotionally into it anymore.
That's the word. That's the right word. Yeah. But the losses thing. I mean, I've seen salons for years that will barely tread water for years at a time, and I'm like, wow. I mean, there was a time when I first started that I actually had to cut more hair to make payroll because I didn't know what I was doing. But once I started dialing in and realized I needed to learn, I got better at it. And I still see salons today that will tread water literally, for years.
For years.
Time. Yeah. And
right.
I'm like, wow. So that's the losses thing. It's like, all right, am I really going to be good at this? If not, then I'm not going to do it. And I wasn't. There's a wonderful saying. If you chase 2 rabbits, both of them get away. So I had to focus on my strengths, which were the salons and then the consulting side with other salons. That was where I lived, and I was straying a little bit over here. So that's pretty much my reason for it. But
right.
Once you get involved in something, if you recognize it's really great and you want to do it, go all in. If it's not, step back.
It's interesting going all in and that power of focus. How much that can really accelerate you. Once you narrow that pipe enough and you go through that, it creates incredible strength, power, also relaxes you,
Well, that's a really good way to say that. There is a certain sense of, when you know that you're on your game.
Right.
And you're not going all over the place.
Yeah.
Very good. That's good.
Benny, what do you think about, people like, I don't know, you got a lot of celebrities that are in your area have come from there, like Jennifer Lawrence.
Right on. Yeah.
George Clooney.
Yeah, he's a Kentucky boy. Yeah. E-Town, I think.
Where's he from?
Well, I think it's Elizabeth. Well, it might not be Elizabeth. I might be mistaken. But he's definitely a local fellow there.
Yeah. So Johnny Depp, for instance.
Yeah.
What would you do with some of these hair? Okay, you got some politicians there. What are you going to do with Rand Paul's hair?
You know what? I'm going to let him do his own thing. Let him do his own hair. Do your thing, Rand. He's got his curl thing going on.
Yeah, Jennifer Lawrence. My sister did Jennifer Lawrence's hair. She's a hairdresser too. It's all in the family. We're 4 generations, and she really, Jennifer Lawrence is really beauty, and she does amazing things. And my sister did an amazing job with her. Okay, well, what else can we talk about? What is really pushing you right now? What are you seeing right now that's really interesting?
What I'm seeing and what I'm passionate the most about currently, and that is lifting as many of these young hairdressers up as fast as I can. I heard a wonderful phrase from actually Ice Cube, the rapper Ice Cube, recently, and he said, "One must honor this life that we've been gifted, and help as many people as you can. Lift as many people. Let people know that you've been there." And I like to work with young stylists as much as possible. Speak at schools as every opportunity that I get to be able to hopefully encourage and provide some. Inspiration is such an overused word, but a little bit of focus, maybe.
Yeah, maybe focus.
A little bit of something.
Yeah.
I want them to know that no matter where they come from, what side of the tracks, whatever personal stuff they've ever lived through or anything, that they are important and they can make a difference in others. You see, if most people would look at other people as if they were wearing a t-shirt that simply said, "Make me feel important," the world would be a different place. And these young hairdressers that are coming in, and sometimes they get wrapped up in wanting to be famous real fast, and I get that. I love the motivation and I love the ambition. I want to make sure that they have that right foundation.
Yeah.
And so however many folks that I can reach and inspire and help them get on the right track. It happened for me, and I know that it had someone not invested while I was in school even in extracurricular business and competitions and so forth, then I can't say that we'd be having this conversation.
Right.
So I know what it meant to me. So as many folks as we can inspire these young ones. I don't like some of the statistics we were speaking earlier about. I mean, I want to make sure that.
Yeah, we were talking before about the Gordon Stylist Academy, which is something that I'm working on, which is based on the idea that only 5% of hairdressers actually get to their 5th year once they've graduated beauty school. The rest get out of the industry. And my thought for that is because they don't get training, both technical and non-technical training. And some do get technical training, but then they don't get the non-technical training. And that's what we're doing. We're creating an online course for that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's absolutely horrendous to think about how many talented stylists are out there that left the industry. And the number one core thing that we focus on at Nova, and then what I work with my other salons around the country, is dialogue training. Dialogue training. How you speak, where you put your pauses in your words. At the end of the day, each individual is responsible for if someone else hears them. Sometimes they'll say, "Oh, they weren't listening to me." Well, no, you weren't doing your job as a communicator.
Right.
And the better you are at moving your ideas forward, whether it's about where to put the highlights, what shampoo, hairspray, or whatever it might be, how to lead your team if you're a salon owner, to greatness.
Yeah.
Your ability to communicate, the way you use your words, that's a transformational behavior.
Right.
And that's where we begin in all things that we do, both with our living lab. Remember, one of the first things we do is go into that, and then of course my own team at Nova as well.
Do you think that it's that it is because of all of the connection to social media and all that? Is that where does that come from, that people aren't able to connect, or is it just a maturity issue for people in their young 20s and upper teens?
When I was finishing high school and deciding on going into beauty school, that was the same thing then.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's been an ongoing thing. I think we're in this present moment where we're used to a lot of digital, a lot of tech stuff. But I truly believe that it's always been and always will be,
Mm-hmm.
the human connection. Because that was one of the first things that I learned.
Right.
When I was 19 years old, coming out of beauty school, was got to be able to speak to them.
Right.
You got to be able to communicate.
Yeah.
And an English gentleman I worked with for a time said something really beautiful. He said that the way to be successful in this business is to know who to call love and who to call madam. And basically, it was your ability to communicate and how to communicate with the individual person based on who they are too.
Yeah, yeah.
So interesting stuff.
Really interesting. Benny Pollard, I want to thank you so much for coming down to T. Gordon Salon Talks.
I really appreciate it.
And the Gordon Salons.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Party hard.
All right. How was that, you guys?
Yes. Great.